Welcome aboard once again. This is Flight Quest 40. Today's flight, we're going to look at the ADF pointer. We're going to look at the ADF instrument that's a lot of times found in most general aviation airplanes. It seems to survive. It seems to show up in some of even the newest airplanes. Your G1000, you have the ADF pointer. You can put that in there. Now I know what you're going to say. Oh, here we go again. NDB approaches and turn here. How do you know when you're on course and all that? You know, when we look at the relative bearing and the magnetic heading minus the magnetic bearing, well, that's going to give us this and that's going to give us that. That's going to tell me when I'm on the course. That's when I should turn left or right, head to the station or head away from the station. I'm here to tell you that we're not going to do any of that kind of math in here. This isn't a video that's going to be filled with charts, diagrams, and pictures of a NDB beacon and the wind blowing with a smile on its face, pushing the airplane this way and that way. We're going to be in the airplane. We're going to do this real world in the simulated home simulator. I know people tend to click off quickly if they see this. Oh boy, here we go again. I already know this, but I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to say I guarantee you don't know everything about the ADF and the NDB beacon. I'm not going to teach about the NDB beacon and what it does. It does not emit radials like a VOR does, but we have a pointer in the airplane that's always pointing to the station. We're just going to be able to, I guarantee you, when this is going to be a 5-part series. When you're done with this series, you're going to be able to look at your pointer and tell exactly where you're at. Even before you get to the course, you're going to know it's to the left, or if you're on the course, or if it's to the right. You're going to know if you should roll out early, or maybe you should go half standard rate, just to roll out on a procedure turn. On the inbound course, when we have these known numbers, we can tell the difference in degrees. So I beg you, I really beg you, hang in there with me. I'm going to try to keep these videos around, between 30 minutes and 40 minutes. I'll do my best, but I'm going to break it down into segments. Today's flight, we're going to talk about tracking a bearing to the station and tracking a bearing away from the station. We're going to take a look at a bit of a crosswind at altitude, and we're going to talk about some of the things that you've probably heard. That is going to be the old saying. Some say a lot of instructors will teach push the head and pull the tail. Well, what the hell does that mean? Push the head. How long do I push the head? How long do I pull the tail? Do I constantly turn? Is that me pushing the head? Do I constantly pull the tail? Does that mean I'm dragging it? But we're going to look at that, and I'm going to show you exactly what that means. And just by looking at your instrument, you're going to know if you've reached your course inbound, or you're on your course inbound, or you've gone past it. Gee, I better turn inbound now. Okay, now I got to make another intercept heading correction in there. I'm going to show you how you can just instantly recognize when you're on the course. We're also going to talk about something when the angle of correction equals the angle of deflection, you're on course. Okay, well, how do I know what course? Well, it's whatever course you make. If I want my bearing to the station to be 360, that's the bearing to the station, magnetic bearing, if we're using our heading indicator. But from now on, we're just going to call it bearings to the station, or bearings from the station, or bearing left or bearing right. Push the head, pull the tail. What does that mean? And how do I visualize that looking at the instrument, and what is it telling me when I'm looking at it? When I push the head, generally it means we're going towards the beacon, so the pointer, the head, or the arrow part is at the top portion of the instrument, the ADF, automatic direction finder. It automatically points to the station. What does it mean if I'm pulling the tail? Well, usually we're looking at that as though the tail is on the top portion of it, okay? So we're going to take a look at those. And then the angle of correction, I'm referring to the heading indicator, and the amount of deflection, I'm referring to the ADF unit. And we're going to take a look at that. So for this portion of it, let me go. I think you have this visual. Here's our ADF pointer. Right now, I do have it tuned to a station. We're going to take a look at real quick at the airport we're at. I have this indices on 0 degrees. For this flight, we are not going to worry about any of these compass headings on this unit. And we're not going to be spinning this to a current heading. We're going to keep this right at our north heading. I'm going to go ahead and scroll out. You can do that too. Here's our pointer. There's the head. Here's the tail. Here's the little airplane. Here's our little indices around. These are very important. These little tick marks are important. We're not worried about these numbers. We're just worried about these 10, 15, 20, you know, if you were here, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 degrees, up to 45 degrees. We're going to learn to love this thing. And I guarantee you, you might say, oh, I don't fly the NDB anymore. I'm just a GPS guy, and I can put waypoints in and doing that. In the simulator, it's really cool. We're in Alaska right now. You can't even see this airport when you're at altitude. The only way to get there is by using the ADF pointer, because there's also a VOR unit close by. For the challenges of flying, having some fun, and of course, I don't make it easy. After we're done flying inbound, we're going to be like a bush pilot flying our 172 or whatever plane, your Piper Cub, into the airport, and it's a sort of a challenging approach. And I'm going to pull the plate up and you're going to see why. I'm sorry I'm talking so fast because I think I'm trying to speed the videos up again. We're also, in the tracking of this ADF, we're going to show you how to keep you pretty precisely as much possible on your course, so that when you cross over the NDB, that your pointer, it just doesn't go bum 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 bum, take its time swinging to the back of the airplane, or vice versa. Usually means that we're either to the left or to the right of the unit. We're not going to be right over top of it. People say, oh, when you get close to the station, just hold your heading. It's like the cone of confusion. It does have some similarities to the VOR. It is anything but a VOR. Once we get that taken out of our minds, that, oh, just visualize it like it's a VOR, and then you'll understand it. No, that's a falsehood. Nobody should ever say that, because the ADF pointer, all it does is point to the station. If you ever need to get to the station or away from a station, all you got to do is put that pointer right on there and you're flying directly to that station. Obviously, if there's a wind up there, it's going to be blowing you off. Now, you know, the pointer is 15 degrees to the left of the plane. Oh, I'll just turn 15 degrees. Well, guess what? You're not tracking a bearing. You're just homing to the station, and eventually you'll be flying into a headwind anyway. So we're going to take a look at some of those areas, and then eventually we're going to combine all of these little series into one and fly an NDB approach. Any of my subscribers, if you have an NDB approach that you would like me to fly, you let me know, and we'll take a vote here and plug it in and do it. Okay, here we are at Sparrowvon, Alaska. This is an interesting airport. Now, this NDB training is not really about the airport. We're just going to use this because it has an NDB there. It does have an outbound course and it has an inbound course. This one's a little different than the first one I saw. This is what, 19 March 2026. Wow, this is current. My other one that I pulled up was not current, and it actually had 350 going in and like 170 going out, so it was like whole numbers. This one has just, instead of 355, it's got 357. Instead of 360, it has 357. Okay, the beacon is right there next to the runway. We're going to look at this approach. There is some really interesting things about this approach. Military certified air crews or authorized contract aircraft only. Man, that's got my name written all over it. Well, I'm not in the military anymore, but I'm flying contract. So we're going to go in under contract. Okay? It's not for civil use, but hey, we got a contract. So we're going to be flying into this airport. The cautions, runway surrounded by mountains, it sure is. Terrain, 1,530 feet. And then there's 2,730 feet from the threshold. Another really interesting aspect of this approach is that successful go-around improbable if initiated past the missed approach point. Well, here's the missed approach point. You can see it right there at the NDB. it behooves you to be smartly on this course to see that needle swinging, because if you don't see that airport and that needle starts moving off of the nose, you better be on your missed approach. You'll see why. There's mountains right here, and if your plane is not capable of climbing at a good climb gradient, you're going to be part of the terrain. You'll be hanging out with the moose and the elk, whatever else might be on that mountain, and hopefully your survival skills are intact. This is the Karen Mountain NDB 281. Any questions? It's a short runway, 35. When we're here, these mountains are so steep, anytime we use this airport, we'll take off on a southerly heading because the terrain is not as aggressive. And when we come into land, we're going to land 350 again, because we'll be coming over the lower terrain. If you came in from this side of thing, you'd have to dump it. You know, what do they say? Dive and die. Or what's the old saying? Dive and drive. Okay, so Papa, okay, since we're up in Alaska, they use the P up there. We're not using the K. Alpha Sierra Victor. All right, thanks for your time. And once again, if you're with me at this point, stay with me. I guarantee you. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Once I get going here, I'm going to try to keep my video short, but what we're going to do is we're going to take off south, and once we get to altitude, we're going to turn around, and we're going to automatically start tracking to the beacon. We're not going to worry about any of this stuff at the moment. We'll come through. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. It doesn't matter. If I use 350 and 180 as our inbound and outbound, it's for our tracking purposes only. So today's video is just about tracking and handling a wind. I did put winds in at altitude up to 8,000 feet. The winds are from 290. Let's take a look outside and see what the terrain looks like. Look behind me. Pretty steep terrain. Some more terrain out there. This is not as I'm not intimidated by this at all. Okay, so this is our little airport. Welcome to Alaska. Steep terrain. That's why I say if you came in and had to do a missed approach going in the opposite direction that I'm pointed here, the outcome is improbable. You will become part of the terrain. Okay. Back to the airplane. Oh, wow, look at that. As you see, the station is to the left-hand side of the airplane. We do have our first thing is with the NDB 160170. Let's make sure we are completely right there on 170. Okay, 170 is between S and 15. Always double check. There's S and there's 15. I've seen people put their heading on 190 because they look at the S and they go, oh, reading it this way. They didn't look at that. I've seen it. Here we go. 10 degrees flaps, normal takeoff. I like to have my nose cowling just a little bit visible. There it is. And then I just kind of tilt my head down. Okay, parking brake comes off. Frequency is in. I got a crosswind out of 290, so it's off to the right. I have to sit really close to my sim. Okay, I'm sitting down now. I'm settled down. Bit gusty and breezy out here. I'm using the Laminar X-Plane 12 172 with the constant speed propeller. I kind of like this one because I got a little right rudder I can add in there. There we go. I shouldn't have had that in there for takeoff, but that's going to help. instead of holding my right rudder in there all the time. Okay, come back up. First thing we do is identify. And you can see our wings left and wings right up there. You can see the mountainous terrain. I'll probably go ahead and... We're going to jump ahead here, 6,000 feet. We just crossed over the station, and we're going to track outbound 177. Let's call that 180 for now. And then our inbound course, since it's 3 degrees off of 360, we'll call that 360. So we are tracking away from the station. And then out here somewhere, we're going to turn around and come back to the station. First thing is, since we're going to call it 180, normally it'd be 177. We could do that if we wanted to, but let's just use the easy numbers here. We're tracking outbound. How do we know that? Because the pointer is behind the airplane. The head is behind the airplane. So the ball is centered. Heading is 180. Let's check our compass. Small, shallow turns. Okay, 180. What does our compass indicate? Yeah, that's pretty close to 180. So we're good there. So right now, we want to be tracking outbound 180. Feet off the rudder pedal, Stevie. So we're going to go back to heading a 180, tracking outbound away from the station. I kind of have the holding pattern showing up here. You can see we are generally on that course going outbound. We talked about the angle of correction and the angle of deflection. We do have a wind coming out of about 290 up here. So let's see if we're on the 180 bearing from the station tracking outbound. When I look back here, the pointer is outbound, and I notice the tail is 5 degrees, 7 degrees to the left of the nose of the airplane. Well, I want to get back on that 180 heading, because remember when we said if the angle of correction equals the angle of deflection, you're on course. We're not. We've got about a 5-degree deflection, and that's because of the wind. We're getting blown to the left. What I do is I look at the amount of deflection. I'm on the heading. We haven't placed a wind correction angle, and there's 180. I'm showing approximately 7 degrees. Well, let's call it 10 degrees, just to make it. I'm going to double that to get back on the course. Which way do I turn? I'm on 180. Let's get it precise. I'm zoomed in here so that we can see this flying on the instruments. And the pointer, I always look at the head of the pointer. It's to the right of the airplane. It's in, so I need to turn to the right. How much? Well, if that's 5 degrees, I'm just going to double it and make it 10 degrees. You know what? I'm going to make it 20 degrees. I want to get there a little bit quicker. There's 10, and there's 20 degrees, so a heading of 200. So what's the amount of correction? 20 degrees. When we're looking at this, when we look at the top of the indicator, remember when we said pull the tail and push the head? Well, here we want to pull the tail up towards the nose of the airplane. How much? 20 degrees. Because when that happens, the amount of correction equals the amount of deflection. We're on course. Teeny tiny corrections here. So there we go. There's 20 degrees. The pointer is about 25 degrees. Remember, but we need to pull that tail up to 20 degrees. So I look at my heading. There's 200. Our outbound course is 180 we want to be on. We're correcting to get back to it. So we have an intercept heading of 20 degrees. That's our amount of correction. And then I look at the tail, pull the tail up. Well, the tail has not quite made it to 20 degrees. When we're pulling it, we're always pulling it through 20 degrees. If it's gone past 20 degrees, then we've gone through the course. As you notice, the middle of the pointer now, right here, is on the 20-degree mark. Do not worry about north, 300, 240. Do not even think about these numbers. We're just looking at the amount of degrees here. I go back to 200, and let's see if we re-intercepted that 180 bearing from the station, or the 177. There's our 20-degree correction. Look at my pointer, and that's coming in right about 20 degrees. My amount of correction equals the amount of deflection. I'm going to turn back outbound to my heading of 180. Or on the chart, it was 177, 3 degrees less than 180. This is just easier to use these numbers. We'll make the correction when we're going back in. I'm just using, kind of a half bar with their half standard rate. There's 180, tracking outbound, approximately. I have my screen zoomed in, so the amount of correction now is 0. The amount of deflection is 0, so we're on course. But if I look at this really, we are about 2 degrees off the course. The pointer is pointing to the left of it, so if I wanted to get back on. But I know the wind is pulling me back. I don't have any correction, but I want to put a wind correction angle in. Where's the wind coming from? 290. Now the angle of correction is 0, and the angle of deflection is 0. So I'm on the 180 bearing from the station. Let's put in a 10-degree wind correction angle. I know the winds are at 290. It's almost a crosswind. You can see my index here. So let's go to 190. The amount of correction becomes 10 degrees. We're going to fly a heading of 190. I'm turning into the wind. That is my new heading. My magnetic heading now is, if we're dealing with an NDB, my magnetic bearing heading from the station is 190. What's the amount of correction? 10 degrees. We still need to reference that to our bearing from. If we were cleared direct to it, we would turn and go direct. Note the heading, and that's the heading that would be our bearing to the station. If we got blown off a course going direct to the station, we'd have to correct for it to go back to that heading that gave us drift. Now when I look, I'm compensated for the wind, so I'm no longer getting blown off the course. My angle of correction is 10 degrees. And when I look down here, my angle of deflection should be approximately 10 degrees. Am I right on course? Remember, we always say, push the head and pull the tail. Here, we're going to pull the tail. If it were down here, we'd want to pull it up to 10 degrees from there. At 20, or a heading of 190 from 180 gives us 10 degrees. And the pointer, the tail of the pointer is about 6 or 7 degrees. So we've actually kind of gone through. We have a little bit too much of a wind correction angle in there. In order to get back on that, I can just double my correction into the wind. See where the pointer's at. We would pull it in. And I generally know it's the wind doing that. 10 degrees. Actually, we need more wind correction. I can see the pointers actually get pushed, but we don't push, we pull. If we pull too far, that's if you're ever unsure with that amount of degrees, is let's go to our outbound heading again, 180, or like we said, 177, and let's see what we got. 0 degrees. Am I right on 0? My angle of correction equals my angle of deflection. I'm about 3 degrees. So to get back on course, I could just hold this heading of 180 because I'm going to let the winds blow me back on course. The course is to my left. The winds are blowing me to the left. My angle of correction is 0 because I'm on 180. So I'm waiting to pull the tail to 0 here so that when the amount of correction, which is 0, equals the amount of deflection, 0, I'm on course. But ultimately, I want to put a 5 degree or 10 degree correction in for the wind. My correction will be 10, so I should see 10 degrees on the ADF. My nose goes left, my pointer goes right. If my nose goes right, my pointer is to the left. Equal distance, 10 degrees. Think of it like the field goal poles, and we want to split the center. Our heading is right in the middle. So my heading indicator, let's get it to 0. We can double check the compass. And I'm showing about 3 degrees. The course is to my left. The wind is still blowing us there. Let's see what happens. We're just going to maintain this heading. And the wind will blow us back on course. Notice the index is getting pretty close to being centered up on 0. My angle of correction is 0. I'm waiting to see 0 here. The winds are coming from this direction, blowing the plane back towards the course. As you can see, just a 3 degree correction, incorrect heading there, shows up on the heading indicator. That's because the pointer always moves or is stationary. The plane revolves around that pointer. 0 degree correction. The pointer is about 1 degree now. Flying south, away from the station, away from the airport. Okay, there it is. See that? 0 degree correction. But if we continue this, we're going to get blown off course. So I'm going to turn in the direction of the wind by 10 degrees. So let's do a right turn to 190. I can fly the instruments the best I can. Let's get back to 190. Okay, looking for 190. There it is. I'll just keep my wings level up here best I can. I'm not worried about altitude. 190. Angle of correction is 10 degrees. So if my nose is to the right of the course, my pointer should be to the left of us. That's our field goal poles. So let me get back to 190. Let's see, there's about 15. There's 15 degrees there. Angle of correction. It's going to be 10 degrees. So when the angle of correction equals the angle of deflection, I'm on course. We have a wind correction angle in there that's keeping us pretty steady on the course. It's too much of a wind correction angle, but it shows right there. Now that ended up being about, let's go back to our inbound course is 360. We've got 20 degree correction in here, and the pointer's on a 20 degree mark. That's our wind correction angle. When the amount of correction equals the amount of deflection, we're on course. What if I go in the opposite direction? Let's see something here. Let's go 20 degrees to the right of 360. Now we're at 360. Obviously we'll get blown off course here. See the pointer, 0 degrees. Now if I turn right, let's go right 20 degrees. We won't get off course that far. What's the correction on the opposite side? 20 degrees. Let's look at the pointer. 20 degrees, we're right on course. We're on that bearing from the station. See, now the pointer usually gets pushed down to it. So let's go back to 360 again. That makes our amount of correction at 0. So we should see approximately 0 on our ADF unit. ATC has descended us down to 4,200. Manifold pressure down about 15. Okay, 0 degree correction. Let's see here. And we're going to use the real numbers on our approach plate. Okay, they've cleared us in and they want us to intercept. We're cleared for the NDB approach. Maintain 4,200 feet until established. And that's going to be 305, 357. So we're going to use that number now. Going down to 4,200 feet. Oop, we're getting a little blurred here. So there's 355, there's 357. Okay, we're going to actually fly this. So 357 with 0 degree deflection, we should be on course, but nope. I'm showing about 3 degrees to the right. There's, I'm going to go, 010. So how many degrees correction is that? Well, there's from 360 to 10, that's 10, plus the 3 there is 13. So I'm going to be looking here, push the head. There's the head at 10, there's the head at 13. Looking for 4,200 feet. Let's go back to 357. Double check we still have our ADF working. See that coming in? There you go. That's 357. A little bit of a descent. There's a dip in the compass, but no biggie. Turn that annoying thing off unless we have the ball game on. We can get the stats. Remember back in the day we would pick up a station. Okay, there's 357. What's our amount of correction? It's 0 because we're on the inbound course and we're showing 0 there. But we got the winds coming from the left-hand side. I'm going to anticipate that already. I'm going to put in 357. I'm going to go to 347. There's 347. There you go. 10 degree correction. What's the amount of correction? 10 degrees. Here comes 4,200 feet. I'm going to bring my power back up to about 20. My amount of corrections, 10 degrees. 357 inbound to wind correction angle of 10 degrees gives me 347. Let's see what we get over here. If my correction is 10 degrees, I should be seeing 10 degrees on the pointer. Remember, we're splitting the field goals. Now, I could do this. Let's get that off of north. I'm going to put this on 030. It means nothing. I'm going off of this. 347. Oops. Let's get back to 347. There's 4,200 feet. More manifold. See, that shows up in our pointer. Three, 4, 7. There it is, 357. And 347. 10 degrees. Notice the pointer still right around 10 degrees. That's our wind correction angle. If you're ever unsure, just turn back to your heading. .357. Got approximately 2 or 3 degrees. So I know if the wind's working on me, it may have changed a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and put 10 degrees to the right now. So that's going to be 007, 007, 357 plus 10 is 007. And let's see, with the out, pushing the head to 10 degrees. 357. Are y'all with me? So go up and practice this. And just, you know, I'm talking about using just a minor amount of degrees in there on your heading indicator. I'm going to go ahead and scroll out of it. Let's go ahead and take some scenes out of here real quick. Well, we'll leave them in. A lot of times you don't even have to get back to that. I just look at this and say, okay, I'm 5, and then it's 3, so I'm 8 degrees. If I look here and see 8 degrees, I'm pushing the head of the pointer to 8 degrees. I could just hold this for a while and see what happens. Now I'm 3 degrees correction. See, 357 to north, and that shows what? Don't worry about this stuff. That's about 3 degrees. I'm pretty good. I kind of let that wind blow us back in there. I'm going to put another 10 degree. Now I'm going to correct back into the wind. 357 to 347. Looking for the airport. Okay, let's go back to our heading, 350. Doesn't matter if I looked up and I thought, oh wow, I did 340. What's my amount of correction from 357? 17 degrees. So look here, 10, 20. Well, I'm just a little bit past 20, so I went back. So I'm going to go back to, 357, see where we're at. I already know what I should do without even looking at it, but 357, I'm still a little bit left of course. So I will go 357, 347, 007, and then 017 will give me a correction, and then I might just call that 20 degrees. Here we go, I'm going to put in a little bit more of it. So we have 20 degrees plus that 3, that's 23. Pushing the pointer to the 20 degrees. We're VFRs, can kind of come here, but we're going to use this beacon to get us to the airport because I cannot even see the airport just yet. Right now I got 23 degree correction. Holding that, I'm pushing the head 23 degrees. Not quite there yet. It's moving towards 23 degrees. 10, 20. What's my correction? If I want to get a little bit more, let's say that's not happening fast. Why don't I go to 30 degree correction? Well, that's going to be a 33 degree correction. Okay, there's 30 degrees. 357 plus the 30, that's 37. Look at that. See, there's 30. We're still trying to get there. Remember we pushed the pointer to the 30 degree mark. Check our compass, looking good. Hopefully we'll see the airport. I am very unfamiliar with this territory. Do not see it yet. 30 degree correction. 33, I'm sorry. On this heading of 030. Remember our inbound course is right here. There it is. Look at that, 10, 20, 30, almost. Is that going to get us to the airport? Let's see. Let's turn back to our inbound course now. We're pretty close. Starting to look for things. We're starting to slow the airplane down. Going back to my inbound course. I do not see the airport. Let's see how we are in Alaska. know the big mountain range is in front of me. I'm looking for it. 357. Let's see if we're on course. Let's go back to 357. The winds are from the left. My pointer is showing almost 10 degrees to the, well, 5 degrees. I'm going to put that correction in because, again, we're in the mountains. I don't want to get too far away. 347, there's 10 degrees. So let's go 20 degrees on this side of it, minus 3. Call it 15. Looking to, now, see where it's saying? 10, 20. Looking to get this pushed to 20. Slowing the airplane down. I know I'm getting closer to the beacon. I actually do not see the airport yet. I'm concentrating on the instruments right now. This has to be so precise. Getting the airplane slowed down, trimming out for the new airspeed, nose level to bleed off the energy. I've got 20 degree correction. Well, a little bit less because of the 3. 17 degrees. There's 10. We're getting pretty close. I probably sound like a moron up here, but I'm just driving this home. I'm just going to use 10 degrees flaps until I see the airport. I don't want to go any slower than 80 here. I don't really want to be in a descent. So I'm just trying to slow the plane down and get us on course. So what's my amount of correction? 357, 347, 337. That's 20 degrees. Let's look over here, 20 degrees. 10, 20. We haven't gone through it because remember we pushed the head towards the amount of correction. On the tail end of it, we pull the tail up to the correction. I do sound like a moron. And I know there's the big mountain range, so the airport's got to be somewhere in front of us. I don't know. I do not see it yet. If you see it, let me know. There's my 20 degree correction. Let me just check my compass. Yep, we're good there. 20 degrees. It's only a little bit, about 5 degrees off of what it should be. I don't want to make any big corrections in here. I could just add maybe 5 more degrees in there. So now we're 25 degree. 21, 22. That's pretty good. I'm going to turn inbound because I'm VFR. I don't see. Oh, there it is. We got it. Okay, we're going to go visual now. But the beacon's on the field. Remember, it's up here. I just see the airport now. Sorry, I didn't mean to get so excited. This is like bush piloting. Welcome to Alaska. We have the winds are out of 240, 290, so we have a left crosswind. I'm gonna start creating a crab, and we can still monitor this with the NDB. Let me get a little more power out. You know, I'm gonna go 20 degrees flaps now that I have it. I'm still high, but I'd rather have more of a nose down attitude because I can convert that to airspeed, but I don't want to be too high. And I don't want to come in too fast because I don't want to drift. My amount of correction now, let's work on this wind correction angle so the wind doesn't blow us. 70. I'm going to start slowing to 70. Gas is on, undercarriage, mixture, props, communications. We have about 20 degree correction. Well, look at that on our needle. I mean, it's almost, it'll show 357, 47, about 20 degrees. It's still almost 20 degrees. See, it works right down to the ground. Yeah, we got a good, I'll take some of that out. The beacon is somewhere in here. Just maybe up here. There's 0 degree correction. There's 0 degrees. And see, that's 0 degrees. Okay. We got some good lights now. 70 I'm comfortable with. It's not too gusty. This is your reward if you angle of correction equals the angle of deflection, you're on course. We got about a 15-degree wind correction angle for the runway, and that's keeping us on course. That's keeping us on the bearing to the runway. The NDB that's off to the right would be a little bit different, but my wind correction angle is about 15 degrees, and we're showing about 15 degrees from this to this. We did not even, I mean, I can put this here, 0.6, didn't change the amount of deflection, did it? Okay, let's concentrate on landing. Same principle. I got a wind correction angle, and just picture the bearing from the NDB is right down the center of the runway. Here's my angle of correction with 15 degrees, and it keeps us right on the bearing. So the pointer is pointing right up the runway. Okay, and in there, see the crosswind, yep. Props are forward. I'm just going to stay with 20 degrees angle bank. Using a crab angle here. Then we'll go to the wing down method. It all fits like a puzzle. 60 degrees, runway's clear. Little wing down, little opposite rudder. Oops. Little gust. Oops. Another gust. There's those mountains. Missed approach. Well, once again, thank you very much. I hope that was helpful. Hey, leave a comment. Let me know. Once again, this is Steve with Flight Quest 40. We'll see you on the next one.